I don't know whose idea it was to let Joe Biden speak at Jimmy Carter's funeral, but man, I bet I was listening to it. I thought to myself, you know, with Joe Biden speaking at Jimmy Carter's funeral, I bet everybody in that room wishes they were Jimmy Carter right now. What's up? This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. I'm not knocking. I know it's a funeral. I know you're supposed to go out there and tell stories about the person who's passed away, and he was 100 years old, so you're not going to get a lot of young speakers. I mean, even the grandkids are like 50. They're like, Jimmy Carter's grandkid is going to talk. He's 50 years old. I was like, holy cow, that's my age. But Joe Biden is one of the youngest people still alive who worked with Jimmy Carter when Jimmy Carter was president. So I guess that's what we're stuck with. Anyway, Joe Biden did say something really ironic during this whole thing, which I'm going to play. And I know that I know what Donald Trump was thinking. I know what Donald Trump was thinking when Joe Biden said this. He didn't react too much out of respect again for the dead. But this, you know, there's a certain art to funerals. And I don't think the Democrats have the funeral. If anyone, by the way, eulogies are important. I feel like eulogies are not meant to be dry. They're not meant to be sad. I believe they're supposed to be invigorating. I believe they're supposed to be inspirational, comical at times. I'm really good at eulogies. If anyone ever needs a eulogy, just let me know. Let me know before, because I love doing a good eulogy. I can speak really well about people, and I can make people feel very happy in a time of sadness. And I'm not ever scared of acting awkwardly in those kinds of situations. You probably know that about me. I'll say and do anything, anywhere, anytime. And that's one of the reasons why people love me and also hate me. So anyway, listen, there's so much to talk about. Joe Biden was at the funeral. Hillary Clinton was at the funeral. The Bushes were at the funeral. Mike Pence, remember that guy? He was at the funeral. And Donald Trump and Barack Obama were at the funeral. And Michelle was not there for some reason. Michelle did not make it to the funeral. I don't know if she wasn't invited. I assume she was. All the other wives were there. Maybe she had something else to do. Maybe she pulled a groin muscle. Who knows? I don't know what's happening. She had some really bad jock itch. Who knows? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But Michelle Obama was not at the funeral. And so Barack Obama and Donald Trump found themselves sitting next to each other. And man, I got to tell you, they were like BFFs. So they were thick as thieves, those two. It was really interesting to see. And it's been kind of all the talk. Yes, Jimmy Carter lived to be 100. Yes, Jimmy Carter was president. Yes, Jimmy Carter was not a good president. Yes, Jimmy Carter did some things. But the talk about the funeral today was all about Barack Obama and Donald Trump and how they're now bros. They were broing it out, man. They were chuckling and laughing, and they were giddy, and they were chit-chatting, and they were whispering. And, and again, it's church. I get it. Sometimes I chuckle at church. Sometimes before the ceremony begins, I'll lean over to my wife and I'll say something and we'll be talking. And my kids, who are way more pious and religious than I am, will go, shh, we're in church. Or someone will turn around and give me a look. I'm like, nothing started yet. Come on. We're all just waiting for the Lord. Lord's not here yet. I mean, I guess the Lord's, but you get my meaning. But these are presidents of the United States of America. No one's going to shush them. No one's going to shush Donald Trump at the National Cathedral. No one's going to shush Barack Obama. Well, maybe Michelle would, but again, as I mentioned, she wasn't there, so you didn't have to worry about that. But they were sitting there, man, and we have video of it. They were getting along great. I don't know what it was, but they were chit-chatting, and Donald Trump said something that made Barack Obama LOL, like literally laugh out loud. And the camera kept panning around. The Bushes aren't even talking to each other. Laura and George W., they're not saying a word to each other, but Barack Obama and Donald Trump are. Kamala and Doug, silent, not a word. They're not they don't even look like a married couple. They look like two people that were stuck next to each other because they were going Dutch. But man, Obama and Trump are just having a blast the entire time. And it's really interesting to see. Even Hillary Clinton walked in with Bill. And of course, they don't talk to each other. They don't talk to each other. They don't touch each other. I'm pretty sure they don't sleep together anymore. And they walked in, the ice queen herself, and they shuffled right on by. Didn't say a word, didn't do a thing. They didn't do a gosh darn thing. They just sat down and they ignored everybody. So it was really interesting. It was really interesting to see, and it was really interesting to watch. There were a couple of other moments at the funeral that I thought were kind of bizarre. For example, there was a moment when do I have it here? There was a moment when it's like George Bush walked by Obama and tapped him in the belly, like you would if you like one of your bros. He tapped him in the belly like you would one of your bros. I think I have it. I'm going to play it here because it's really it's very George Bushish. Pardon me. It's very George Bushish in nature. Here it is. Yeah, instead of a handshake or instead of a fist bump or anything, he just taps him in the belly. Hey, what's up, bud? He's like, hey, what's up, Barack? How you doing? Oh, yeah, just like two athletes would like. This is what fraternity guys would do. One guy's like, hey, what's up, George W? He's like, hey, what's up, man? Good to see you. Just tap him in the belly like that. It's very it goes a lot in line with his character. But everybody was talking about how Donald Trump and Barack Obama were getting along so well, laughing hysterically at each other. I had a couple of other clips too on my phone. I don't know that they were the best quality, but it's really kind of interesting because this says something about Donald Trump, because you remember that Donald Trump, he'll talk about how bad a president is. He'll talk about how bad their policies are. He'll talk about how they do the wrong things repeatedly. He'll talk about how horrible Obamacare was, how horrible this decision was. But, if you're sitting in a room with the guy and you're waiting on the funeral to begin, he'll talk to you. He'll be like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? I mean, keep in mind, these are guys, too, that have a very unique perspective on the world. Nobody else, there's very few people alive, fewer now that Jimmy Carter kicked it, who understand exactly what they're going through. But it is, in fact, here, I have this on my Twitter. Let me show you this one. This was the clip from my X feed that was just phenomenal. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah, this is it. This is the two of them. Look at this. This is Barack Obama just giddy. Donald Trump, I don't know what Donald Trump says to him, but Barack Obama just, ear to ear, you can see all of his pearly whites. It's really amazing, totally unexpected. And again, it took the internet by storm. But again, this is the mark of a true statesman. And this is the mark of somebody who understands that politics is politics, but humans are human. The Democrats don't do that. They can't dissect. They can't separate the human being from the political officer. They're one and the same. And that's why, for example, they don't say Donald Trump did a bad thing. They don't say Donald Trump's policies were bad. We disagree with the way Donald Trump governed. No, they say Donald Trump is Hitler. Donald Trump is a white supremacist. Donald Trump is the greatest threat to democracy. These are the words. Donald Trump must be stopped at all costs. He's a criminal. He's all these things. But and then when they sit down in church together, obviously they can chit chat with each other and not seem to worry about it. Also, I think it speaks to Donald Trump's power. It speaks to the mandate. It speaks to the amount of people who stood up and voted for Donald Trump on November 5th, pardon me. And I think that it's the realization by the Democrat Party that they are cooked, and that this man is not just going to be the next leader of the free world, the next president of the United States, but that this man is truly the leader of the majority of Americans in the United States. Because keep in mind, Kamala Harris didn't even beat Joe Biden in a single county. Not one county did she beat Joe Biden in, not one. And that's something that she's going to have to live with for the rest of her life. In the meantime, there was this moment in Joe Biden's eulogy, which I found to be quizzical. I mean, I was waiting for him to, pass out or trip or fall or wet himself or something. I don't think any of those things happened. But he said something in his eulogy which made me scratch my head a little bit. I was like, wait a minute. What are you implying? Listen to this quote.
We have an obligation to give hate no safe harbor, and to stand up to what my dad used to say is the greatest sin of all, the abuse of power.
Okay, well, okay. So Joe Biden is saying we have an obligation to give hate no safe harbor. This is a guy who just weeks ago called all of Donald Trump supporters garbage, which we don't mind because it led to one of the most iconic and viral moments in any presidential campaign, delivered Wisconsin for Donald Trump as well as the presidency, and made Joe Biden look kind of like an idiot, more so than he usually does. And so, but that's, to me, delivering hate. Hate shall find no safe harbor. Well, if you call half of America, 76 million Americans, garbage, I feel like you're giving hate safe harbor, and you're giving it safe harbor right there in the White House, which apparently you're not supposed to do. But then he goes, my dad said the greatest sin is abuse of power. What? Okay.
You know, we have an obligation to give hate no safe harbor and to stand up to what my dad used to say is the greatest sin of all, the abuse of power.
Wow. I mean, wow. That is just, that's the irony of that is just not lost on me. I assume it was lost on Joe Biden and all of the Democrats, because Joe Biden is the one who has abused and continues to abuse his power even as he's leaving power. Joe Biden is the one who abused his power while he was president, abused the FBI to raid Donald Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago. He used the DOJ to allow such raid. He used the DOJ to prosecute. He used Jack Smith and special counsel and to go in and charge Donald Trump with ridiculous acts of criminality, which I don't even think. I mean, they're all gone now, thank God, because justice has prevailed. But if anyone ever, in fact, Joe Biden just recently said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, remember, we shared you that article about him and Merrick Garland, and he said, I'm disappointed with Merrick Garland because he didn't prosecute Donald Trump hard enough or fast enough, and also he went after Hunter Biden too hard. So he was mad at Merrick Garland. He's disappointed with Merrick Garland. He wished he never chose Merrick Garland because Merrick Garland didn't weaponize the DOJ against Donald Trump fast enough and didn't protect his son enough from the criminal acts that he actually committed. And this is a guy who says, don't forget, the abuse of power is the greatest sin of all. Also, I'm pretty sure the greatest sin of all is denying God. But, you know, whatever. Donald, I don't think Joe Biden listens I know he goes to church every Sunday. I don't think he listens. Pardon me. Let me take a little sip of my coffee there. Clear my throat. All right. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on. First of all, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. If it's your first time watching on YouTube or Rumble or any of the other platforms where we're broadcasting live, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button. Make sure you like, and if there's a notification bell, hit that dinger, man. Get the dinger going. If you're listening to the podcast, tell iTunes, tell Spotify, tell whatever. Say, hey, I like this podcast, and I would like to hear more podcasts just like this from Mark Kaye. And they'll oblige. I'll keep uploading. They'll keep sending it to your phone. You can listen whenever you want to our podcast, which we upload every single day, Monday through Friday. When I'm not, when we're not on vacation or it's a major holiday or I'm dying. Those are the only stipulations that we have when we don't necessarily broadcast. The other thing that's continuing is this fire that's raging. I mean, this fire raging in LA is just, it's crazy. I'm going to go back to my X here for just a minute. These photos, some of these photos, let me pull this one up here. This is a photo of Pacific Palisades. And looking at it, if you're listening to the podcast, it looks like, I mean, it's just every house. It's your typical grid with, homes and cars out front and backyards, but where the houses once were, there's just rubble. And it's every house, every block 4 miles. Every house, both sides of the street, block after block after block. There's not one house that appears to be left standing. Everything just charred, ruined. The fire has taken it all. Nobody was safe. Nobody was able to save their belongings. And these are not celebrity houses. These are regular people's houses. The celebrities, so many celebrities have lost their homes as well. But, I mean, this is just an entire neighborhood, regular people, and they lost the entire city of Pacific Palisades is gone. The strip malls, the shopping centers, the restaurants, the gas station, everything's done. It's basically, if it's not 99% burned down, it's close to that. And that's an incredibly devastating thing to see. Here's a fire that broke out yesterday in the Hollywood Hills. Look at this. In the Hollywood Hills, a fire broke out just because. This was kind of weird. They're fighting 4 other fires around LA, and then all of a sudden, right there in the Hollywood Hills, right by the Hollywood sign, right west of the Hollywood sign, and heading down toward Hollywood Boulevard, this fire broke out in an iconic neighborhood, and people started freaking out again. It's the 5th fire, by the way. These fires are just breaking out at random in all these random places. And the government the firefighters are helpless at this point to fight these fires. Number one, they're worn thin. I mean, they're all over the place. They got planes flying all the time. Their fire hydrants are running out of water. Thanks, Gavin Newsom. Their mayor cut the funding to the fire department by almost $20 million, which was not smart. Then she went off to Ghana, and she wasn't even there for the beginning of this. There's this video that was released. I guess I saw it on TikTok. And it's I don't know what it's some woman found this footage of firefighters filling up women's handbags with water, running to where the flames were, and then dumping the water out of the handbag onto the flames.
What in the world? The firemen don't have hoses, so they're like literally using purses, women's handbags, filling up women's handbags to put out fires. Look at this. What in the world? LAFD fire department using women's handbags to put out fires. What is going on here? Have you guys ever seen this in your life? Look.
I don't know who that woman is talking, but I would just watch the news narrated by her. She reminds me of who's the woman that got the ham thrown in her face that has that cooks everything with gravy. Oh, what is her name? Oh, she's got the big restaurant in Myrtle Beach. Anyway, it'll come to me. But she reminds me of her like, oh my God, LAFD using women's handbags? Look at that. That's crazy. What are they doing? And it's true. They have the fire trucks full of water. They don't have hoses for whatever reason. Maybe the hoses are burned or whatever. And they fill up these bags. They run over and then they toss the water. I've never seen anything like it before. In my life. Firefighters using handbags to fight fires. It's really, let me just double check. I want to see if it's like a designer, because in LA, everyone has designer handbags.
What in the world? The firemen don't have hoses, so they're like literally using purses, women's handbags, filling up women's handbags to put out fires. Look at this. What in the world? LAFD fire department using women's handbags to put out fires.
Yeah, they look like little canvas sacks is what they look like. Like it's not like they got Gucci purses and Prada bags and Louis Vuittons, all that kind of stuff. They're like little canvas sacks. So I don't know, maybe they're made for that, whatever. But for whatever reason, that's what they're doing. And this is it's just one of the most bizarre stories coming out. There's a lot of bizarre stories coming out of the fires. In fact, David Muir, who I was so wrong about. I'm very rarely wrong about things, or that's not true. I'm wrong about some things, but rarely will I admit how wrong I am. Usually I'll be like, nah, I never said that. Or I'll be like, I didn't mean it. But David Muir, I remember I met David Muir at the Republican National Convention in 2016. And I got a chance to hang out with him, talk to him. He was a nice guy. We took some photos. Seemed like a legit news anchor. I watched him grow up on television. I watched him, roll up through the ranks, get his nightly gig where he's on the news, doing the news thing. And I thought he seems like a nice guy. He seems like he's fair. He seems like he could be kind of balanced. He didn't seem like a George Snuffleupagus, but maybe when you're on the same network as George Snuffleupagus, everybody seems less liberal and less horrible. But then he moderated the debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris and showed his true colors. He showed what a biased POS he was. He showed, he fact-checked Kamala Harris 0 times and fact-checked Donald Trump 12 times, argued with him. It was really, to see his true colors was really disheartening and disturbing, not just because I thought like maybe he was one of the good ones, but also because I had this great photo with him. And now I'm like, oh, I can never show anyone that photo again, because he's one of the worst people in the world. Well, he was at the fires, because of course he is. And he's reporting in front of, there's devastation. There's, people losing their homes, people fleeing for their lives, grabbing their pets, whole neighborhoods, as we just pointed out, just decimated, just demolished, just gone, just poof. They're out of there. And David Muir shows up, puts on an ABC News firefighting jacket or fireman's jacket, big yellow, with the reflective stripes. And I guess he realizes that it's too big, because there's footage of him. And when he turns around, you can see that there are clothespins. You can see that there are Jack Osborne from the Osbournes first posted this video. What he did, and this is an old trick that they do on television. If you're wearing a coat and you know your coat's a little baggy and you don't look thin enough, or it doesn't show off your figure, you bunch it in the back and you put clothespins on your clothespins or binder clips or whatever you happen to have at the time. You can staple it if you need to, and that way you look a little more. It doesn't bunch. It doesn't make you look fat, basically. So David Muir was out reporting on these fires. He was afraid that he was going to look fat in this big jacket, which, I mean, it's a fireman's jacket. It's not supposed to be, it's not designer. And so he had somebody, I don't know if it was a producer, I don't know if it was wardrobe, whatever, run in quickly and put clips on the back of his jacket, because that's what's important. Is he wants to make sure he looks good while he's reporting on the devastation that these people are. I mean, it's really this. David Muir has had a bad year. I guess this is the new year, but between finding out he's the worst person in the world, between finding out how liberal he is, between the debate that he moderated where he tried to help Kamala Harris and she lost miserably, and now clipping his jacket in front of the wildfires, it's not looking good. It's not looking good for David Muir. Someone else who it's not looking good for, of course, is Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom is, again, you want to talk about bad. Donald Trump was asked about Gavin Newsom. He was at the Capitol building yesterday. He said, look, I'm in town. I'm going to go to the funeral tomorrow. I'm going to hang out with my buddy Barack Obama, my brother from another mother. And we're going to chit chat. We're going to make some jokes. But before that, I'm going to have a meeting with Congress, and we're going to talk about these bills. We're going to see what we can hammer out. And so they stopped him and they asked him, and they said, hey, what do you think about Gavin Newsom? What do you think about what's going on in California? Here's what Donald Trump said. Oh, wait.
Gavin Newsom to allow water. Well, it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side. And he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that. There's no reason. Can you imagine? You have farmers that don't have any water in California. They have plenty of water. They don't have a drought. They send it out to the Pacific, and it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated. The biggest homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know. You talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California. This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water, and yet they have. The water comes from, where? Up north. And it comes down at levels. They give millions and millions of barrels of gallons of water that they have, and they send it out into the Pacific. For the Pacific, it's like a drop. It's nothing. But for California, it would take care of the whole state. So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job. With that being said, I got along well with him. When he was governor, we worked together very well, and we would work together. I guess it looks like we're going to be the one having to rebuild it. But what happened there, I don't think there's anything that I've ever seen quite like it. And the insurance companies are going to have a big problem because you're talking about big, big dollars.
All right, I want to unpack this a little bit because there's a lot to get to in this. Donald Trump, he does something that, there's always something called what do they call it? A poop sandwich, right? The poop sandwich, where they call it something else, but it's a family show. Poop sandwich is a managerial tool where if you have bad news to deliver to somebody, you're supposed to start with a slice of nice, clean, fresh bread, which is a compliment. Then you put the poop in the middle, and then you end with a compliment. And this was my entire life working for corporate radio stations. The poop sandwich was like, they told all their managers, hey, listen, you got to do a poop sandwich. And so they would come in and they'd be like, hey, Mark. I'm like, hey, what? And they'd say, great show today. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I'm like, oh, yeah, I love that one joke you told. That was hilarious. And I go, great. And they go, one thing, though. And then I'm like, okay, so we had the layer bread, which was, hey, Mark, great show. That joke was funny. Now here comes the poop. And I go, oh, what? And they go, Everything you did other than that joke was just horrible and off-putting and offensive, and advertisers complain about it, and you suck. And then, but also, I loved your tweet. And that was it. So they had the bread, all the poop, and then I loved your tweet. And then they put that on, and then they left. So I was supposed to feel good about the two things on either bookended, and then really take to heart the constructive criticism in the mail. It's a dumb thing. All managerial things are dumb. A corporate management, smart goals are stupid. Poop sandwiches are horrible. All those things are ridiculous. It's just somebody created this whole industry of these parables and these ideas they could give to managers. Anyway, that's a whole show for a different day. But what Donald Trump does is he does a poop sandwich, but it's like open faced and inverted. And that's exactly what he did with that quote, because he goes, Gavin Newsom's horrible. Gavin Newsom, he should have brought the water down, but he didn't because he wanted to save the smelt. And look, it's terrible. All these people are losing their home. He should resign. He had the opportunity. I've been telling him for years. Back when in my first administration, I said, bring the water down. He said, no. And he's responsible for all of this. And he's a horrible person. And he should be thrown out. These citizens have lost everything. And the insurance companies. And then he goes, but you know what, when I, in all fairness, when I worked with him, I did get along really well with him. So boom, so it's like Donald Trump. It's like he's building an open-faced sandwich upside down. He throws all the poop on a plate and then covers it with a very thin slice of bread. And that's how Donald Trump does stuff. And it's working great for him, by the way. It works fantastic for him. He just piles it on and then goes, but he's not a bad guy, and I look forward to working with him again in the future. But the other thing he said, the thing about the fish, by the way, is right on the money. This is the irony of this whole thing with these wildfires, is that Gavin Newsom wanted to save the smelt. And the smelt, if you don't know what a smelt is, he's right. It's this ridiculous little fish. This is a smelt. All right, this is a smelt. It's a little silver fish, and I think it's used for bait by some people. My grandmother was very Polish. She was from Poland. She was everything. She spoke Polish. She smelled Polish. Everything was Polish. And she used to deep fry these and with salt. And they were like little fishy. I guess you would get them in a bucket or something like that. I think I had a picture of that too. Here she'd get like a bucket of these smelts. I don't know where they got them, somewhere in Canada. And you get a bucket of these smelts, and she would throw them in the oil fully. Like she didn't deworm them, just throw them just here, take the smelts, deep fry them, throw some salt on them. And then, look, it kind of looked like this. And these ones actually look a little bit better. Don't tell my grandmother. But then, you just eat the whole fish, the head, the eyes, the tail, everything. It was like a salty little fishy French fry. And it was delicious. But like I said, I haven't had one in 40 years, and I'm none the worse for wear. So if we need to lose the smelts in order to get water to California so people don't lose their homes, I think that's a fair trade-off. I think we can find some other fish to eat. But apparently the environmentalists, led by their social justice warrior supreme Gavin Newsom, had a big problem with the smelts and didn't want to bring the water down from the reservoir, because when you tap into the reservoir and you bring the water down from Northern California and Oregon and Washington State and Canada, I mean, the water, he's right, there's so much water, you can bring it down, but in that process, it would disrupt the breeding grounds of the cherished smelt. And God forbid the smelt should be put out. God forbid the breeding grounds or the home habitat of the smelt should be disturbed. Meanwhile, the home habitat of tens of thousands of Californians has been destroyed. All, by the way, because of an environmental protection law. And the irony is the environment in California is destroyed now. The environmentalists and the environmentalist policies put in place by these whack job leftists have now destroyed the environment. Think about that. And if they'd gone with Donald Trump's plan of bringing water down to moisten the land, to make sure that the trees are getting enough water, to make sure that, you've got water in your fire hydrants, to make sure that when you need it, it's there. I mean, if there's no drought, that's what he said. He goes, I asked these people, why don't you have water in your fire hydrants? Is there a drought? They're like, no, we have Gavin Newsom as our governor. Oh, enough said. CNN was on the ground with Gavin Newsom, and they asked him about the water in the fire hydrants and why there wasn't water in the fire hydrants. And Gavin Newsom, the governor The governor, who is the chief executive of California, the governor threw his hands up literally live on TV and goes, that's not my job. They got to figure that one out on their own.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in Palisades, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was talking to the firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe 1 fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's got to be determined by the local.
That's got to be determined by the local. They're going to have to figure it out. He literally.
What is the situation with the water?
Let me pause it here.
In Palisades, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was talking to the firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
He literally, there's an image of him. I'll post it on Twitter later. He has his hands up like, I mean, he's washing his hands. He's like, oh, he's got his hands up. And he's like, look.
Folks are trying to figure that out. I mean,
these folks are going to figure that out. I saw on Twitter, I forget who it was, somebody posted on Twitter, could you imagine, just close your eyes for a minute, unless you're driving, close your eyes and imagine Governor Ron DeSantis, if there's a fire in Florida, or let's say there's a hurricane, and the hurricane came in and it wiped everybody out, and you know, something didn't hold, and they said, you know, hey, why did this happen? If Governor DeSantis had said, these local people are going to have to figure it out. He's the governor. He would never. That to me disqualifies you to say, look, these local, why was there no water in the fire hydrants? They turned on the fire hydrants. There was no water. So they moved on to the next neighborhood and they let this one burn. Why is that, Governor? That's up to these local yokels to figure out. That's not my job. I don't know. They're going to have to, it's not dissimilar to other places where there's no water. Oh yeah. In California, maybe. I haven't checked my fire hydrant lately, but I would bet you $100 that if I took my monkey wrench out there, or my plumber's wrench, and I cracked open the fire hydrant on my street, I'm pretty sure water would come out. And then of course the police would come and give me some kind of citation. But I would imagine that in most municipalities, in most parts of the country, when the fire truck shows up and they crack open the fire hydrant, the water flows freely. I would imagine. I'm not saying I know for sure, but I know where that doesn't happen. In California. And Gavin Newsom doesn't seem to know or care about why. Donald Trump said that Gavin Newsom should resign. He called him Newscum again and said he should resign. Here he is on Truth Social. One of the best and most beautiful parts of the United States of America is burning down to the ground. It's ashes. And Gavin Newsom should resign. This is all his fault. Fire is spreading rapidly for 3 days. He wrote zero containment. Nobody has ever seen such failed numbers before. Gross incompetence by Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, and Biden's FEMA has no money, all wasted on the Green News scam. LA is a total wipeout. And of course, Anderson Cooper at CNN asked Gavin Newsom about Donald Trump's comments, and here's what he had to say.
I hate to even ask this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden. And he had the backs of every single person in this community. He didn't play politics, didn't try to divide any of us.
Finally.
Yeah, Joe Biden flew into L.A., which caused all of the planes to have to stop flying to drop water because the president's flying in. He stood next to Gavin Newsom while they were staring at the devastation and said, man, that's bad. And then he cut a $500 million check for Ukraine, because that's how the Democrats do it. And now Gavin Newsom is upset at Donald Trump for saying he should resign. This is failed leadership from the top down. The governor, the mayor, the fire chief, who is a DEI hire. All of these things. This is a massive failure in massive proportions of Democrat leadership. And he's right. People are losing their homes. He's right. People are losing their livelihoods. A lot of them are celebrities. And maybe, just maybe, that will have people stand up and take notice. There's a couple of notable celebrities that I wanted to share with you who lost their homes and posted online about it, posted on TikTok, posted on, we're on CNN, a couple of, not the annoying celebrities, but celebrities that I wanted to share with you because I think they offer a unique perspective to it. But before we get to that, I did want to share with you one other thing, and that is that this show continues to be made possible by people who are nice enough to sponsor us and realize the value that we have and the value that our audience has. And they also have something really cool to offer. And one of them is Colonial Metals Group. And Colonial Metals Group, our good buddy Paul Stone, we're going to have back on the show. I was like, hey, come back on the show. Let's talk about right after the inauguration, because we're going to be gone for the inauguration. But we're going to get Paul Stone back on the show, and we're going to talk more about the economy, more about Trump's first 100 days. He's not just he's not just the CEO of Colonial Metals Group and a wizard when it comes to investing in alternative forms of IRAs like gold and silver IRAs, but he's he's full of political knowledge, and he knows a lot about economic policy. But if you want, Paul's offering a free gold guide. If you've never gotten one of these, it's a great time to get one. You go to freegoldguide.com/K, Kaye, my last name, freegoldguide.com/K. And you know you're in the right place because look, it's me. Huh? There I am. And you just fill out the information. You'll learn how to protect and grow your retirement savings with a gold IRA, why precious metals offer a strong defense against de-dollarization and inflation, which is still something we need to be worried about, how their safe and efficient retirement plan optimizes your assets and savings, how to use an IRS loophole to protect your financial future, all these great things. And they also have limited time offers on qualifying accounts too, should you choose to start one. But start with your free gold guide. All you need is your name and your email address. You put it in there, you get the free gold guide. You can learn all about investing with Colonial Metals Group, who also is a sponsor of the Mark Kaye Saves the Republic podcast. So we do appreciate them. I also get a lot of questions from people about, hey, can I be on your show? Hey, can I be a sponsorship? And I've never thought about it, but yeah, if you're listening and you want to be a sponsor of the program, we're putting together a special package for you. Special package. Sorry. I apologize, but we're going to put together a special package here in a minute. I'll tell you how you can access that if you're interested too in being a sponsor of the show. Now, back to these celebrities. So there's a couple of celebrity videos I wanted to share with you. And one of them is, I don't know if you remember Spencer Pratt. Spencer Pratt from The Hills. He dated Heidi. And I didn't even know he was still a thing, but apparently he is. He and Heidi lost their home. They were able to get out safely. They have kids now. I didn't even know they were still together. If you ever watched The Hills way back when, you were shocked that they lasted through the entire season or the entire series. But they did, and they're married, and they have kids, and they're still together, and they lost their home. And Spencer Pratt posted this video on TikTok of him drinking a margarita.
Cheers. Thank you to 1 million followers on TikTok. Who would have thought all I needed is our house to burn down to finally hit 1 million. Can't believe I didn't think of that sooner.
So he's made it to safety. He's poured himself a nice cold margarita, and he's toasting to his 1 million TikTok followers. And who knew? My house burns down. All of a sudden, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know he was on TikTok until his house burned down. So I know he's being tongue in cheek there, but that's one celebrity's take. Hey, you know what? My house burned down, and thanks to the 1 million followers I got on TikTok, I'm gonna just nothing else I can do at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and have a margarita. One person who didn't have such a positive and cheery outlook was Whitney Cummings. And Whitney Cummings, we played you. She's the comedian who was on with Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen on New Year's Eve that roasted CNN, that roasted Joe Biden, that kept thinking she was going to be pulled off of the air. Whitney Cummings, who, I'll be honest with you, gave one of the best comedic performances I think I've ever seen. She couldn't believe that CNN was allowing her to say the things that she was saying, because had it been, had it been like a year ago, 2 years ago, she wouldn't have gotten away with any of them. This was the big dig on CNN she made.
I thought being a mom would mean that less people would want to come see me. I'm now playing, like 3,000 seat theaters,
awesome.
which is about the viewership of CNN these days.
Well,
Not
nice.
this show, though.
Nice.
Yeah.
All eyes are on this show.
Yeah, and then she made the joke about she made the joke about Joe Biden being a dead guy.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. Are we still rolling? Am I off?
Yeah, and she was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe CNN. I love these jokes, by the way.
It was amazing that the pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate. Kamala was forced on us so hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer or Moderna, whichever one's. Oh God, Andy just gave me a very scary look.
No, you keep going. Andy's loving it. So Whitney Cummings, she started the year, and I remember saying, if this is the future of comedy, it's going to be a great year. If this is the future of entertainment, if comedians are coming out of the woodwork and realizing, okay, it's safe, they're not going to get banned by Meta anymore, they're not going to get attacked or audited by the IRS. There's no more, what do you call it? People coming after. There's no more weaponization against real comedy and truth. If that, we're going to have a great year. And I thought for sure Whitney Cummings was going to have an amazing year. Whitney Cummings had to evacuate her home yesterday in LA. And it was tough to watch. And she also has a podcast. And as a podcaster with a home podcast studio, this one hit very close to home for me.
So I am evacuating my home. It's so hard to leave the podcast studio behind. I know that's sounds insane, but I have everything, like my son's birth certificate, but just to leave all this, podcast studio is such a big deal to me because it connected me to so many of you guys. And just to give you an idea, this is the podcast studio, and then I don't know if you can see.
She's showing the fires outside in her window.
It's pretty close, I don't know what I'm gonna lose, but it's weirdly you really find out what matters to you when you have to evacuate. I'm not taking the cameras. I'm just taking little trinkets and stuff that you guys gave me at shows, and
And that is, I mean, to be honest with you, I have a lot of stuff around here that I've collected. The gnome, for example, this was a gift. This was a gift from, I want to make sure I get it right. This was a gift from Patrick Martin, Gnomes by Design, June 14th, 2024, Donald Trump's birthday at Fly Day. He gave me this gnome. Rest assured, if I had to flee my home, I would bring the MAGA gnome with me, because this is the stuff that really means the microphones. You can always get another microphone. I wouldn't be unplugging microphones. I'd be grabbing the gnome. I'd be grabbing some of the Kayetriot stuff over there. Bobby Gongs has carved me 1,000 different things. I've got signs. I've got pictures all over. You can't see them because they're all over there because they get in the way here. The Trump sign, whatever I could snag, I would grab. And I can see, and I understand where she's coming from, because when you put your heart and soul into something, when you have that kind of when you're able to communicate with people, and people get so, they feel so in tune with you that they just give you stuff and make you stuff and send you stuff. That's when it really hits home. But there's another guy who I'm big fan of, and we've talked about a lot on the show, James Woods. And yesterday, yes, James Woods, he had to evacuate his home. He was watching on his Ring cam as the flames started lapping up on his deck. He started, showing us videos and photos of how his entire street went up in flames. He was showing us he was evacuating with his wife, and he didn't know if he was ever going to come back. He still doesn't know if his home is 100% standing. He assumes it's not. But he was on yesterday with Laura Ingraham, and she asked him about why this happened. He's been accused of being a climate change denier, while people are saying this is all because of climate change. Listen to what he said.
Laura, with all due respect, if it is true that things were handled this way, if it is true that Gavin Newsom is the absolute blithering idiot that I believe he is in the way he has handled fire management in this state again and again and again and again, this isn't a wake-up call. This is the kind of thing they have tribunals for, where they try people and say, you had an oath of office to perform certain duties. When you're the fire chief, this isn't a social justice exercise that you're in charge of. This is you getting water to areas that need water because there are fires in 100-mile-an-hour winds burning houses to the ground. I watched on a Ring camera a guy have to sit and watch his pet burn to death. Those things are issues of the heart when you watch a cherished little pet. Or, look, my home is a building. It was we worked 3 years putting the home together. We loved our little house. but it means nothing compared to the 5 people who lost their lives. So
James,
the wake-up call.
Yeah, I hear you. And again, we're going to learn a lot more about
James Woods is like, should be all of, everybody should be James Woods at this moment. James Woods understands, has understood. He's ahead of his time. He lives in a place where, and again, look, I understand why people live in California, especially if you're in the industry. I understand the industry is there. You know, if you're a steel worker, you live in Pittsburgh. If you're a farmer, you live out in the prairie somewhere. If you're a surf instructor, you live in Florida. We got a lot of surfers there. You know, if you sell marijuana on the street corner, you live in New York. All those kinds of things. But you know, when you're in the entertainment industry, California is the place you got to be. You got to load up the truck and move to Beverly. And there's a lot of people there that don't share the politics, that don't support Gavin Newsom, that don't like what's going on. And some of them speak up, some of them don't, because they're afraid of what's going to happen in the industry. James Woods was rich enough and powerful enough and famous enough and old enough and just didn't give a crap enough to speak his mind. And he still continues to. And he's 100% right. Getting water to a place where there's a fire is a basic thing that your municipality should do, especially if you pay as much in taxes as the people in California do. You shouldn't have to move into a neighborhood and worry about whether or not there's water coming out of the fire hydrant. You move in, like, that's going to be on is that going to be on the MLS report? Well, it's in this school district, and this is the safety rating for the neighborhood, and there's a church nearby, and oh, there's water coming out of the fire hydrants. Okay, good, that's important. Yeah, I know sometimes some of those neighborhoods don't have water coming out of the fire hydrants. Not this one. I mean, is that like an added benefit? Are we going to have to privatize our fire hydrants now? Are rich people going to be? That's the next thing that's going to happen. They already have private firefighters. We learned all about that with the Malibu fires. Or I'm sorry, the Maui fires. We learned all about that. The private firefighters that these rich people would hire to protect their homes and gardens and things like that. We get all that. But now you're going to have private fire hydrants in LA when they rebuild because they don't have faith in the government that they're going to be able to put out a fire. And the mayor adding insult to, look, you should really do one or the other. Either you should bring in the water or you should beef up the fire department. And in LA, in California, the governor cut off the water, said, no, we got to save the smelts. Okay? Smelts are very important. So no water for you. And then they're like, all right, fine, give us $20 million for the fire department. And the mayor says, nope. Oh, sorry. Nope, there it is. No money for the fire department. So they're cutting off the water, they're cutting off the fire department, and then a fire starts, and what happens? Massive devastation. Joan Rivers' daughter, her name is, what is her name? I forget her name. Joan Rivers' daughter, Melissa Rivers, thank you. Melissa Rivers was talking about losing her house. And I'm sharing this with you because I loved Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers was an insult comic. She was Whitney Cummings before Whitney Cummings. She was one of my favorite. She didn't care about she said what she wanted. She didn't care about anything. She didn't care who she offended. She was amazing. God rest her soul. But here's what she said. She was leaving her house and she was talking to Caitlin Collins, who is trying really badly to be sympathetic. Listen to this.
Before, between the earthquakes and the fires and growing up in Los Angeles. So I kind of have a mental checklist. I made sure that we got passport, that we got birth certificate, medication, clothing. You know, I just was out shopping for clothes. It started to hit me that we literally just have what's on our back. I grabbed, I think, dog food, cat food. Luckily, my office, which was in my home, everyone was there. And, in my personal situation, that's it. That is the end of everything that belonged to my family and the history of it. So I honestly, to be 100% honest, I grabbed my mom's Emmy, a photo of my dad, and a drawing that my mother had done of me and my son and I can't even remember which is grammatically correct right now. And dog food, cat food, and that was it. But the most important thing is have your papers, have all your ID, have your passports, have that in one place ready to go. Thank goodness we are organized like that. And, have extra pet food and just.
Yeah. So she's saying, and look, good solid advice for anybody. Have your papers in one place, have them ready to go in case of emergency, grab them. And I know that these kinds of things happen like everywhere. I mean, I live in Florida, like I said, there are hurricanes every year. You don't know where they're going to go. They say they're going to go here. There's spaghetti models showing them going all over the place. Half the time they let the kids out of school and it's sunny and warm outside. There's no rain because the hurricane took a left at Miami or something. But hurricanes are devastating and people lose their livelihoods. We've lost entire communities to hurricanes several times over the past 20, 30 years here in Florida. I know in Oklahoma, in Tornado Alley, tornadoes come in, boom, they tear up entire neighborhoods, entire towns, and without warning. Multiple tornadoes hit at the same time and people lose everything and you don't know when it's coming and it's devastating. And I know that in the north, you've got, snowstorms and ice storms and I don't know what you got. I don't know. You have Democrats that just destroy everything. That's probably the scariest now. And then of course, out in California, places like that, you have earthquakes and wildfires and whatnot. So yes, it's great advice to have everything in a place where you can grab it. But think about this. Is this a natural disaster? Like a hurricane is not anyone's fault, except maybe the butterfly. And they always say a butterfly in Africa starts flapping its wings and it turns into a hurricane. I don't know. Maybe it's the butterfly's fault, but a hurricane is not anyone's fault. And hurricanes can't really be prevented no matter what the climate kooks tell you. No matter what Al Gore says, you can't stop a hurricane. Tornadoes. Same thing. They are not caused or exacerbated, if you will, by there's nothing you can do to make a tornado worse. Hurricanes aren't going to get worse. Earthquakes. An earthquake hits. Okay, yes, you could maybe have created a building or a structure or figured out a way to make whatever you've built a little more stable for earthquakes and things like that. But this fire, by all reports, is devastating to the point of it is basically what I can't even think of, apocalyptic. And a lot of it could have been changed had you had a better manager in charge. Had you had somebody who looked around and said, we could potentially face a serious problem. Somebody like Donald Trump, who said, Donald Trump said, I've been telling him this for years.
Well, it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side.
Okay, so Donald Trump now think about how frustrating this is. Think about how frustrating it is to be Donald Trump. You're like, I told you 3 years ago, 4 years ago, however long it was, I told you, get the water. Forget the smelt. F the smelt is basically, that's going to be our next t-shirt design. F the smelt. Get the water. Get the water to the people. Get the water to the forest. Get the water into the fire hydrants. I told you 4 years ago, you didn't do it. So now you know what's happening. I'm coming back and I'm going to do it on the federal level. Donald Trump is federalizing California. He's federalizing water. Donald Trump is, as if he didn't have enough to do, he's got a border that he's got to rebuild. He already had to go to court to get Joe Biden to stop selling out from under him all of the supplies that we already paid for pennies on the dollar. He already had to get a court order to say, stop it. You're destroying our mandate to protect the United States of America from evil intruders from South America, from all over the world, really. We want to build a wall. We're going to build a wall. The people want to build a wall. Stop selling our wall. Giving it away really is what he was doing. He's got to fight that battle. Then he's got to go in. He's got to fix the economy. They've got a couple bills they're working on right now for tax cuts to make sure that the Trump tax cuts don't expire, to make sure that we get more tax cuts. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. All of these things that he promised, all of these things that America wants, all of these things that America needs. Donald Trump's got to get it done. And now, on top of all of that, on top of fixing the military, getting rid of the woke DEI initiatives, firing all of the generals, finding new ones who are going to be focused on fighting and winning wars, while he's negotiating with Ukraine, while he's negotiating with Russia, while he's negotiating with China, while he's slapping tariffs on Canada and Mexico, while he's out there trying to get these hostages back from Hamas, or else all hell's going to break loose. While he's doing all of that, now he's got to pick up Gavin Newsom's slack and get water to people whose houses are on fire. I don't think that falls in the purview of his job. I think that falls on the purview of the governor. Ron DeSantis can get water to the fire hydrants here in Florida. I don't know why in California it's so difficult, but I have to believe it's Gavin Newsom's fault. Also, I don't know if you heard, but we talked about this yesterday. We talked about and this was great, by the way. You guys love your t-shirts, man. These Gulf of America t-shirts, we talked about these yesterday. Let me pull these up. And again, I'm not going to say it's my idea because I didn't come up with the Gulf of America. I just put it on a t-shirt. But man, you guys love these. We've sold so many of these. The last successful product we had of this caliber were the "Oh Boo All You Want" Matt Gaetz Halloween t-shirts. And the Gulf of America t-shirt yesterday, I mean, hundreds. It was every 5 seconds. Bing, 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 bing. Every 5 seconds, someone was picking up a t-shirt or a hoodie. And by the end of, the other great thing about this is that people reach out to me and they're like, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? So we added I went in there and I poked around. We added a couple of other things. Not only do you have the Gulf of America t-shirt, not only do you have the dark mode t-shirt, if you prefer the darker colors, there's a navy blue. There's the gray. I love this gray one, which is very popular. There's all kinds of different, there's a teal, purple. This is great. The military, this is olive drab green. It's called olive green. I think it really pops. The red and the white and the blue really pops off of the olive drab green. And I personally love that one as well. But one of the things that I did was, look what I found. This is great. We have hoodies. We have a woman's V-neck, because that's always very popular. But I got one of these Stanleys. It's like a fake Stanley. It's cheaper than a Stanley. And it's got the Gulf of America on it. And check this out. We have our own mascot, Gulfy, the official Gulf of America mascot. So you buy yourself a t-shirt or a hoodie. You buy your wife a tumbler, a 40-ounce tumbler, and then you buy your kid. Look, he's got the Gulf of America t-shirt. It's very cute. Gulfy, the official Gulf of America mascot plush doll. I'm very excited. I don't know. I get a kick out of all this stuff. But if you want one of your very own Gulf of America t-shirts, like I said, oh look, Migdonio P in Lando Lakes just purchased one. That's great. And this is my favorite thing too. At the very bottom here, it always tells me when someone buys something new, and you can see it too. Migdonio P in Lando Lakes bought the official Gulf of America t-shirt. Thank you, Migdonio. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of our Kayetriots. Jack G in Glendale, Arizona. Out in Glendale. Great. We're sending a shirt out to Glendale, Arizona. But anyway, we've got all of these in fashion colors. Oh, Pam B in Fort Worth, Texas. Man, that's the other thing about having a podcast. It used to be like Florida, Ohio, and Oklahoma. Now it's just every gosh darn nowhere. But the website is markshop.com, and you can go there and you can pick any and all that you want. You can go, we've got our other collections as well. The Brighter Future collection from Trump's speech at the RNC, official Kayetriot gear. We've got the MAGA King stuff. I left that up because I still really like it. Mark Kaye Saves the Republic stuff, the Mark Kaye signature line with my hat and a bunch of other things. Anyway, and we also have this great coupon code to save 15% off. So, Bidenflation is still a thing. Donald Trump's not back in office. I know times are tough. So if you use code TrumpWorld, which is right here on the top of the website, TrumpWorld, you get 15% off of your order of anything you want, of your entire order. Load up your cart. Put in Trump World, you get 15% off all of it. But this Gulf of America thing is happening. This is happening. I don't know if you know about this. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she put forward legislation to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. And I don't know if you know about Marjorie Taylor Greene, but when she puts forward legislation, she does whatever she needs to do to make sure that it goes through. I want to read you. It's really short, too. That's what I love about it. I love a short bill. But she put forward this legislation. Here it is. Nope, that's not it. I want to read it to you because it's very fitting. I think I'm on the wrong account. She has multiple accounts too, so I need to make sure I get to the right account. Yeah, here's the one. This is the one pimping her book. But she immediately, as soon as Donald Trump announced that he was going to, as soon as he announced that he was going to put forward this initiative to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. She put forward the legislation and introduced it in Congress. And I'm trying to, and it disappeared for some reason. I should have retweeted it. But anyway, but it's out there. It's a bill. It's happening. And as soon as it happens, you're going to want to be prepared with your official Gulf of America gear. Again, which you can get at markkyshop.com. Do not forget your 15% off coupon code. Listen, thank you so much for joining me today. What a great day. Now, I should point out, we do have another week before we go to the inauguration, and the inauguration's on a Monday. It's also on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which actually may work out well. It actually may work out fairly well because the inauguration is all day, basically. I mean, it's at noon, so that's when the show is. And like I said, I figured you weren't going to be watching the show anyway. But I'm gonna be arriving Sunday in Washington, D.C., and then on Monday, you have to get there early. You got to get, like, I think 9 o'clock. We got to start piling into the Capitol building or get our seats on the stair. Well, I don't even know where we are. But we got to get there early, spend basically all day there. And then what happens is at noon is the inauguration. That takes about 40 minutes to an hour, I think. There's musical performers and, J.D. Vance gets inaugurated. There's a whole bunch of things. There's a prayer, all that kind of stuff. And then President Trump and the First Lady, Melania Trump, there's a parade to the White House. They get in the car. I don't know if they're going to walk. I know that Jimmy Carter liked to walk. I don't know what the deal is. But there's a parade to the White House, and then everyone just kind of piles out into the streets. I'm sure there'll be protesters. It'll be great. And then after that, sometime that afternoon, we'll go back to the hotel, and I may do something later in the afternoon. I may just post some videos and stuff that we have. It's going to be frigidly cold, as I told you before. So there will be no live show on that day. But again, it is a holiday. It is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So you may be off anyway. Sorry, I was just trying. There's like 1,000 shirts that are now everyone's buying shirts, which is fantastic. Oh, somebody bought. Oh, I'm so excited. John Sincavage bought Gulfy, the official Gulf of America mascot. John, please let me know how it is. I'm going to order, I love this. Gulfy, the official Gulf of America mascot. John, I don't know if that's for you, John, or for somebody else. You also got a hoodie. So good job. But anyway, and he saved 15% by using Trump World as the coupon code. But so then the next day, which is going to be Tuesday, the 21st, I'll be in DC, but we'll have the full live show and I'll bring you the entire recap. All the highlights, all the lowlights, all the craziness, all the zaniness. And then on Wednesday, we travel back, but I think I'll be able to squeeze in a show before we travel. So we shouldn't have any problems. Just that on the 20th, on the day of the inauguration, because we're going to be there live in DC, it's going to be but again, like I said, I assume just turn on C-SPAN, and watch. I wonder if Barack Obama is going to be there. I didn't think that Barack Obama was going to be there, but now that I know that Barack Obama and Donald Trump are so tight, maybe he'll invite him. Maybe he's like, hey, you know what, buddy, you should come to the inauguration. And Barack's like, no, I couldn't, but I don't want to. He's like, no, come on, it'll be fun. Melania will be there. It'll be, Joe will be there. It's going to be, just come on out. We'll have a good time. I'll let you ride in the limo back with me to the White House. By the way, if you watch this video, Kamala Harris is the least liked person in Washington, D.C. I don't know. It's amazing to me, but she has no love for Joe Biden and vice versa. She has no love for the Clintons or the Obamas and vice versa. Jill Biden friggin' hates the woman. It's really awkward to see. Donald Trump was one of the most popular people at the funeral. Everybody was coming up to, Donald Trump even shook hands with Mike Pence. Karen Pence, not surprisingly, totally ignored him, but Mike Pence was cordial. George W. was cordial. And then, like I said, he and Barack Obama were best buds. Anywho, that's our show for next week. Now, I'm sorry, next week we're fine. But then on the 20th, the week after, we're going to have a little bit of a different format. But anyway, listen, in the meantime, I'm back. I'm doing good. My voice is almost 100%. My energy's back. So we're going to be posting stuff all the time. And the most important thing for you to do is to make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you like the podcast. Make sure that you hit the notifications. Because if you've got the notification bell set, they're going to let you know whenever we post something new. If you tell iTunes and Google and wherever else you're listening, iHeart, hey, I like this podcast, I'd like to subscribe to it, then they will send you a notification every time we upload a new podcast. And that is the best way to get this information because we've got so much more of it. As you can see, we've still got Democrats doing dirty things. We've still got Democrats doing dirty deeds. California's still a mess. We got to save it. There's other states that need. Scott Pressler is now devoted. His next goal in life is to turn New Jersey red. He did Pennsylvania. He's up next, New Jersey. I'm telling you, he should go out to California because after these wildfires, that might be an easier shot. But he's going to New Jersey. He's going to turn New Jersey red. So there's still a lot of battles to fight. We only have a 1-vote majority in the House of Representatives. And that could become even slimmer in 2 years. So we've got to continue to preach the word. We've got to continue to spread the gospel. We've got to continue to fight so that we can continue to save the republic. You, me, and Gulfy, the official Gulf of America mascot. I'm gonna go order one of these. I'm so excited. Oh, look at this. Somebody got a tumbler. Mary, I hope you enjoy your faux Stanley Gulf of America 40-ounce travel tumbler. By the way, one thing I'd like to point out, you can't see this from the photo, but I do want to let you know that if you look at the tumbler, let me get off of Gulfy here for a minute. If you look at the tumbler, here's the tumbler. On one side is Gulf of America, the logo. On the other side is the Mark Kaye Saves the Republic logo. And I couldn't figure out a way to show you that, but it's there. it's there. One side, it says Gulf of America. On the other side, it's the Mark Kaye Saves the Republic logo. Gulfy the Bear, just the one logo on the front. Gulfy the Bear, his t-shirt is only one-sided. But we do have Mark Kaye, the signature logo on the back of all of our apparel so that you know you're getting official Mark Kaye signature apparel. Go to markkaysshop.com, markkaysshop.com right now, and enjoy. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow.